You've heard that, this little light of mine. Sometimes you have to shine your own light. This little light of mine, Delaware, has not shined its light enough on its African Americans. The 1639 story. The 1639 story.
Anthony was the first known black settler in this area, Wilmington. And he arrived here in 1639 on a ship called the Vogel Grip.
He was Anthony Swartz, or known as Black Anthony. He became assistant to Johann Prince, the governor, the Swedish governor of Delaware. Johann Prince was the largest governor we ever had. He weighed about 300 and some pounds. So Black Anthony was kind of like his, his assistant. When you start talking about the Mason-Dixon line, a draw between the North and the South, the northern county was closely related to Philadelphia, New Jersey, and different parts of Pennsylvania. The southern part of the state was more connected with Maryland and other southern states. As the result of that is that Delaware becomes a schizophrenic state.
Slavery was in Delaware was mainly in Kent and Sussex County because that's where the main farming was done. In Wilmington there were slaves, but very, very few because there was very little farming that took place up here.
Wilmington, Delaware becomes the place to be. If you were progressive coming from lower Delaware, you want to be in Wilmington, Delaware. You want to come to Wilmington. Wilmington had city council, it had people who were progressive, it had religious leaders like Peter Spencer. Wilmington was a progressive place to be for African Americans, especially free blacks.
Garrett was a very special man because he was arrested for his involvement in the Underground Railroad, and he was fined, I believe, $10,000 at a court hearing in Newcastle County. But let me tell you this. Here's what Garrett did. Garrett, after he was fined, and that just about wiped him out, he said, if that's all you're going to do to me, I'm going out and redouble my efforts. Now, he was a true believer.
You can't talk about the Underground Railroad unless you mention Thomas Garrett, station master of the Underground Railroad. You can't even hardly say Harriet Tubman without mentioning Delaware. She had to come from Maryland through the state of Delaware, knock on the door of Thomas Garrett right up there on 227 Shipley Street, ask for money, for shoes for the slaves, and go on en route to freedom to Philadelphia, New York, Canada.
Even in 1860, the 4 million African American slaves who were worth more than $3.5 billion, this was the largest single financial asset in the entire U.S. economy, and was worth more than all manufacturing and railroads combined. What does that mean? That means a lot of wealth, generational wealth, was built on the institution of slavery, the ownership of people who were forced to be engaged in labor.
Sometimes we forget to tell these stories, and sometimes these stories need to be heard from everyone. We have to share this with our young people. We have to share it with our older people. We have to share it with people who used to hide things. They were ashamed of being black. Blacks have done a lot to aid and assist Delaware to move to higher ground. Just think about it. Delaware, the state that started a nation. Delaware blacks who did all they could to uphold the state of Delaware and what it entails. So we have a work to do from all of us to aid and assist in elevating the story of Black Americans in Delaware, the 1639 story. The 1639 story.